Full Blast Podcast, let's take a ride into the mind of Smoothie. Video games and comic books, we'll talk about horror movies. Let's go retro, checking the scene. Talk about things in magazines. We'll talk about the things that we've seen on screen and the 90s on the 19.
Welcome to the Mind of Smoothie podcast. It is your boy Smoothie, but of course, inviting you as always to come for the entertainment, stay for the journey, that journey deep into the mind of Smoothie. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a special show today. Not only is it episode 30, not only are we at the halfway to Halloween mark, but I'm finally coming through with two little goals that I wanted for the podcast, if you will. One, to incorporate video. Now, at the end of last year, I did do a couple videos to kind of test it out. I didn't like the way they turned out. Or maybe I was just a little too lazy. That was a lot of work. Maybe that's what was holding me back. But the other one was bringing a guest onto the show. So finally, after about 4 years of the podcast, we are finally here. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be discussing halfway to Halloween and a bunch of different other things with my buddy, Kevin Hauntdermott. Kevin, what's up? Hey, how's it going? So yeah, Kevin and I, we go back to the good old days of college, hanging around the Players Club. And as a matter of fact, I was digging through the album. You're familiar with the album, and I found this picture. So back in those days, to fill you in, our dorm room was called the Players Club for whatever reason. I think I saw the movie and it kind of stuck, and it was kind of the happening place to be on the campus of LVC. And McDermott loved to be the DJ. For those of you who are younger, you have been spoiled by the luxuries of streaming and playlists and things of that nature. But back in the 90s, you had to physically either one, make a mixtape with a cassette, which I believe you did. Didn't you have a mixtape?
Really? But first I would just take your CDs. You had a good selection, but I just played your CDs. Yep.
And then that was his spot, usually any Friday or Saturday night. That's where you could find McDermott sitting right next to, in that position, manning the DJ thing. So I did also want to, it's heavy, just a trip down memory lane for you. I still have the same
there
exact
it is.
CD book. Some of the CDs have been removed.
Smoothie, you had everything. You had everything for a good party.
I did, and I don't really reference that too much anymore, but I still have it. That is the same CD book that was in that picture.
That's crazy you still have it.
I do, and I don't plan on ever parting with it, but that CD book has seen a lot. It's seen a lot of beer spills on it. That was back in the good old smoking days when I was a smoker.
The fact that it survived.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. Did everything survive? I'm not.
I believe most of the CDs that we had at that time survived, that I had at that time survived. I know that there were a couple that got stolen or lifted, and there's a couple in there from other people who left them there that I see initials on.
I left some of my CDs too. I think I would play, and I left them in there. There might have been a few of mine.
You very well might have been, but yeah, that was a typical Friday or Saturday night at the Players Club with myself and McDermott and all our friends. And at that time, now I know we had this 40s. I'm glad I'm not drinking anymore at the moment.
Same here.
But I will say there is a gas station by me that just started selling beer. And I'm like, as I drove by and saw that yesterday, I was like, I know they have 40s in there. And I'm going to be tempted. Maybe somewhere down the road once I get my weight back in check and start getting a little healthier. But
it'll be like old school with Frank the Tank.
Good time.
Once it touches your lips.
So good. So good. But yeah, so that was, typical. That was our fun fun times and party times. Now, at that time, we had this conversation before. At that time, I was more into, like, I think we all were, comedy movies. At that time, the big movies were like Austin Powers and Half Baked or Dazed and Confused. Animal House, of course, was one of them.
Animal House.
But
that was the biggest one for me.
Oh yes, but you had told me you were always into horror, like even at that time.
I've been into horror since I can't even remember. I was young.
And I was young. And I, after we had that conversation, I remember going back and thinking, because you were an English major, correct? Or
yes.
So, I think I remember you mentioning back then, and again, maybe this is just because you told me it later, that you were did horror writing, like you like to write horror stories.
3 unfinished horror novels.
You need to finish them. And release. So, but that was a thing we didn't know. I didn't know that. And again, I did like horror movies at the time, but they weren't the go-to for me. I was definitely into the more easygoing, quotable things, quotable movies. Like I said, the Half Bakes, Fridays, they were big then, and it's also crazy to think.
I participated in that as well with the comedy movie quotes.
Yes. So, I mean, it's, not that you...
I was like the closet horror fan who everybody else watched the comedy, so I kind of kept that to myself.
And I can honestly say, I don't know if even at that time I would have been, not into horror, but the kind of stuff that I like now usually is the campy 80s slasher stuff that I mentioned this in, I think the Critters episode I had mentioned when I was really young and me and my friends would go into the video store. The way we decided on the horror movie was if on the back it looked like there was going to be a shot of skin, then we rented that. So I found a lot of horror movies that way. But at this time, I don't know if it was nothing really. I guess you had the Ghostface shirt on. I guess Scream had been out at that time, right? That was 95, 96?
96, yeah.
So that would have been out. But I don't know. I don't think it was, comedy was where it was for me at that point in time. Like I said, that was the primary. Even thinking back to just my VHS tapes that I had and things that I had, it would have been all comedy. But yeah, here you are sitting in the Players Club, wishing you could be watching some horror movies, which looking back, I think it would have been fun. And I think if you put it in now terms, I think it would be completely different dynamic. I think the comedy movies would still be there, of course, but I think...
Oh, yeah.
I think...
I still every now and then go back. I like the movies from that time. I don't think I see any of the comedies that come out now, but yeah, I definitely every now and then want to put on, the comedies from back in the, 90s and early 2000s.
And also, I think, too, that, and maybe I'm wrong in this, I think at that period of time, and maybe it was Scream that kind of brought it more to the mainstream, but I think horror was more kind of a niche audience, and you weren't a cool person if you you're more of a nerd, if you will, to kind of just throw that term out there, but it was more of it wasn't as accepted, I don't think.
Yeah, I felt that too, being somebody who was into horror at that time, and not a lot of other people were. I mean, there was a lot of people who I knew who were straight up oh, I can't watch a horror movie. I just never understood it. I mean, I just love that thrill you feel from watching a horror movie. And every single... I mean, it's very hard for me to watch a horror movie that doesn't captivate me. I like all kinds. I like anything from, supernatural to, slasher to comedy, horror comedy, everything. I love horror all around.
Yeah, and I think that the last genre you mentioned there, the last subgenre, the horror comedy, I think that's a good combination of both. I actually just finally watched the second Zombieland, and I was dying. I'd seen the original one when it came out.
I gotta see that. I'm surprised. I have not seen that yet.
Yeah, it was.
I've got to see Zombieland.
The first Zombieland it actually came out, I think, 2009 on my birthday, and Holly and I went to see it in the theater for my birthday. And I liked it, and I don't know why I didn't see the second one right away, but I just happened to put it on the other night. I was like, what? I haven't seen it. I'm going to watch it. And
surprised I haven't seen it. I mean, I don't know what it is about that I've not, I've probably thought about it several times. Oh, maybe I'll watch it tonight, and I just never got around to watching it. It's something I want to do, but just I don't know what it is. I love horror comedy. I mean, I don't know what you would consider horror comedy. I mean, what about like Ghostbusters? Do you consider that, or do you consider that a regular comedy? I mean, it's got supernatural elements and everything like that. Like, I always considered it to be some type of horror comedy, but it's definitely more comedy than horror. But
right, I would consider. Back when it came out, I wouldn't have, especially being only like 5 when it came out, and my dad took us to see it in the theater, but I was a scaredy cat when I was little, so that didn't make me give me the horror vibe. So I did treat that more as a comedy movie, lighthearted. Like, I wouldn't at that time have classified it as a horror comedy. As a matter of fact,
I wouldn't have either. Like, I had a separate like comedy and horror, and to me, anything that was comedy, even if it had. I mean, there was definitely scenes that were made in Ghostbusters that were intended to startle you or scare you. So, I mean, the beginning, one of the first scenes, what about in the library?
Yes.
I mean,
yeah, and
that horrifying lady, for a young kid like me, I mean, I consider that to be, a frightening scene. But at the same time, in Pee Wee Herman, Large Marge could have been considered. Was that considered a horror scene? I don't know.
I definitely would think that would be considered more of a scary and frightening scene. But like I said,
it's not a horror movie,
Yeah, that's more
that's a
comedy, family movie, however you want to look at it. But
yeah.
But since I got more into horror, more collecting horror movies. I mean, you can see over my shoulder that whole bookshelf. 99% of those is all horror. Actually, it was all horror, but now as I get new stuff, I'm running out of spaces to put it. So that's why it's kind of sitting up there, like on the one side right there. That's He-Man and She-Ra, like the complete series. But everything that's like standing up on its spine, like in order, that's all horror, and they go too deep. Like, there's another whole row behind that, and most of them are Blu-rays, surprisingly. So around like 2016 for me, I guess I really started to get back into horror movies, and a lot of that has to do with YouTube and channels like yours, like just coming across and seeing this, learning about new movies and seeing these people with these much better collections than me, that sit in front of these walls of movies and everything. And it was just, I
stream everything now. I just stream everything. I have all my DVDs in the basement right now in boxes. I don't know. Being a horror fan, like a true horror fan, I don't know if that makes me like.
No,
I don't know.
I think it's valid. however you want to watch it. It's not, like I said, that's obviously gotten out of control. I've really cut back. Like I had that horror pack subscription for like 3 years where I was getting 4 movies a month. And it like
that was cool.
The first year that I subscribed to it, I did the DVD and the Blu-ray. So I was getting 8 movies a month. And, my collection quickly grew, but recently it's now only movies that I want. I shouldn't say want, that I truly feel the need to add to the collection. And that, or I love going to like the Dollar Tree and stuff and just looking to see what horror movies I can get for $1.
Like look for horror? Do you like Google like new horror movies or like good horror movies to look into, or do you do like what you're saying, go to like Dollar Tree and go that route and find horror that you're interested in?
Like for the newer stuff, because of like following different people, again, like yourself, or even like Bloody Disgusting, like the different things, it comes up in my, on Instagram or whatever, this movie's coming soon or whatever. It's like, so it's stuff like that I feel the need to get out. Like I have over there, I just got I bought the first Terrifier. I bought it on Vudu, which it's Fandango now or something. And then I wanted the Blu-ray because that's one I like and I wanted to add to the collection. And then a friend of mine, we do a gift exchange, and he got me Terrifier 2. So, because I put it on my, thing.
I love that movie.
So I have both of them. So needless to say, when Terrifier 3 comes out, I'm going to try to see. I didn't go to see 2 in the theater, but I'm going to try and see 3.
I don't go to the movies. I don't.
I
think a lot of it's because Sheena's young, so I don't. My daughter is still young, so we don't. Katie and I, we go to the movies together, so we don't. I think we'll usually wait till it comes out on streaming and then watch.
And we were kind of spoiled with the whole pandemic in a way, if you want to call it that. But
then you can see a movie when it comes out, like direct. You can see it the first day that it's released from your home.
As long as you were subscribed.
That's the perfect life for me. I don't like going out.
I don't mind going to the theater, but I always run the same risk that I run at home of falling asleep. So I'd rather fall asleep for just paying
fall asleep
for the subscription fee as opposed to paying a lot of money to then fall asleep. But I try and be good in the theaters. And last year we went quite a few times to see different movies. And I only think I've been.
Did you see any horror movies in the theater?
Last year we saw, Casey and I, we saw the Winnie the Pooh movie.
Oh, and then, I gotta see that. I've got to see that. I held off on that one.
It's on. I saw that. I think 2 is coming already to Blu-ray. I don't know where, or it might be on streaming, but I saw in Walmart. I saw the first one, and I almost bought it, but I didn't. And we saw
the other week. I saw Late Night with the Devil the night it came out. I wanted to see that, and I waited. Like I was waiting because I didn't know when it was going to be released. I didn't know if it was going to be. I guess I think I saw it on AMC Prime or something like that. AMC Plus Prime. I didn't know if I'd be able to see it. But yeah, I saw it that Friday it came out.
And I did, last week, I guess, I did finally sit down I fell asleep, of course, near the end. Well, I was kind of like in and out, so I didn't get to fully. I watched all the way up to where they were going to have, like, do the summoning or whatever, when they went to like the commercial break. Those, to not spoil anything. But then from there, when I guess the handler, the girl, or the doctor, I forget which she was, when she's like, I really don't want to do this. I don't think it's wise. Like, that is the last part I remember. I remember everything up to that solidly.
Oh, you better watch the rest of it. You better get into that because it's just way too.
So yes, that's my track record. But yeah, so it is nice when we do have that luxury to do that.
Yeah.
But going back to bring us on topic, because we could probably sit and talk about movies for another 3.5 hours, and
Of course,
that'll be coming. We'll talk about that later on at the end. Our other project that we're talking about, but I want to bring it back to, so we were good friends in college. You came to my wedding, and that was in 2002, which wasn't too far off from college. And
the last time I saw you like in person,
it would have to be, because I don't think I went to anybody else's, of our friends groups weddings.
Well, you probably went to Chandler's, but I didn't make it to his.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't make it either?
Nope. I did not make it there. I forget why I didn't. There was a reason, but I didn't make it to that one. Maybe I don't know if you invited or not. I don't know. A lot of times it was with the traveling and with work, it just didn't work out. But so that might have been that night, that my wedding day would have been the, I guess, last time we were in person. So then we hadn't talked.
Long time ago.
We hadn't talked for. I'm trying to figure out how we got back connected, which will bring us to where we're at today. I know there was like a brief bit
Instagram. I think one of us started following the other on Instagram.
That's what it was, because, well, I remember because we were talking about Lou, and then we hadn't heard from you, and he said he had talked to Katie or was friends with Katie on Facebook.
Yeah.
And, he said you were doing good and everything. And I think it was like a couple weeks later, then I saw you show up on Instagram, or I think you followed me. And then when I put 2 and 2 together, and then we did have that.
Yeah. Because I think that, I forget if I found out you had the YouTube channel. I think I somehow came across you. I think we had like followed similar people, and you came up on my Instagram as a suggested.
I think that's what it was, or like even it could have been one of our mutual friends too that we have followed.
I'm pretty certain it was Instagram. I'm pretty certain that I came across you on Instagram.
And that's where I found out that you had this channel, which is what I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit before we get into the halfway to Halloween goodness, or whatever you want to call it. But so when I opened up and saw that your YouTube channel and started watching some of your videos, I was like, wow, I thought it was cool because not many of our other friends do YouTube or anything like that. So I thought it was, neat that we both did that. And then when I saw your content and everything, I was like, oh, this is pretty horror related, doing your different series to find the haunts and everything. So it was kind of like not having not seen you for, that was probably, we'll say 2020. I know it was a little after that, might have been 2021, but I got married in 2002. So just about 20 years later, seeing that all of a sudden, all this
time. So in that time, I thought about, I had your number in one of my old phones, and then I got a new phone and your number wasn't in there anymore. And I don't know why I didn't think I could have reached out to you on Facebook or something. I don't know how many times I thought about, I got to get in touch with Smoothie because it's been too long.
And like I said, that was good that Lou, posted that update. And then, like I said, it kind of went all back from there. But when I saw your content, I was like, wow, he likes horror. And I, obviously at that time I was into horror too. Cause then we did do that Instagram call together when I was actually not putting together the bookshelf, but when I was getting all this, moving into this office to, be my work from home / my area, where I was going through all these Blu-rays and stuff to get them on the shelf and get them all organized. But, so I guess go back in that time, obviously you were a fan of horror back then, but like what made you decide to do start with your
It's Halloween.
it,
It started off as a family Halloween channel. 2019. I think Sheena and I decided to. I have half days every other Wednesday, and so during the summer I would come home and I would watch her, and we decided one day, what do you want to do? It was Halloween time. I took her to Spirit Halloween, and we walked around the store, and she loved it. And I guess I started looking up YouTube Spirit Halloween, and I saw other people were going into Spirit Halloween stores and filming like all the different animatronics and stuff like that. And I said, oh, that's pretty cool. And I've loved Halloween since I was a kid. Like I would get masks outside of Halloween. I'd wear them around the house when I was young, and I would wear masks around the house. But everything that's like scary or horror, I was always into it. So just the fact that there was a day dedicated to things that are scary, or I loved it, and I never outgrew it. I've always loved Halloween. It's my favorite holiday.
And that's the neat thing. Like, I mean, it kind of just ties back to my previous stuff. Like, it was something that I found later, and not just, I mean, I like Halloween, but like the whole fall season, I didn't appreciate that until just recently, until I started getting into horror. I still love summer, but like right now, like I'm ready to be shorts, to be warm out, to when I walk the dog, not have to put gloves on or any of that nonsense, where I can just get out, go, enjoy the sun, hopefully get to the beach, that kind of stuff. But it's, for me, it's, well,
okay, sorry.
No, sorry. But the 4th of July, it's like after the 4th of July, it's like, all right, I'm done with summer. Because there's nothing else.
You know what?
It starts.
Just,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, it starts.
No, you go ahead. You were
all right. Yeah, no, it starts for me because it starts getting. That's when it starts really getting hot and gross, and it's kind of like, I'm done. I'm done with this now.
Yeah.
And especially in our area. I mean, I'm in Pennsylvania. You're in New Jersey, but on the East Coast, we have the humidity, so that's a lot of what pushes it up. If it was just like a dry heat, like I wouldn't mind it so much, where you could go into, like we went to Colorado the other summer and it was hot. It was July, but like it's like once you go in shade, it's like so much different. Not like here, you can't escape the humidity, and you come out of the shower, you're still gross. So for me, it's like that, but it's always been, judging by the mask, because that was going to be my next question. So you enjoyed horror and thought about like Halloween or the spooky season, how it's, lovingly called nowadays, pretty much all year round.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's funny because I see a lot of people, and Halloween for most people is October. I would say most people. But for me, I mean, as far as when at-home stores start bringing out their Halloween stuff near the end of June. So that's when I start. Like, as soon as I find out that my local at-home store has Halloween stuff out, even if it's just a couple of aisles, I go there as soon as I find out it's open, and I start showing, what they have. And that's basically starts off my Halloween portion of my channel, because it's Halloween and horror. Like, when it's not Halloween season and you're not seeing Halloween and having things that you can, film about Halloween, I start filming more horror type stuff. So I kind of have like two different seasons, the way that my channel is sectioned off. I don't know if that messes up my algorithm or anything like that, but
as long as you're making the content that
that's why I do it. Yeah, I don't really care about that stuff, but I do it for fun.
So now, when that was 2019 when you started or came up with the idea for doing the channel. So it was just strictly based off going to the Spirit Halloween and then seeing other people doing it. So you said, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it was just because I didn't have any hobbies. I didn't really have anything. It's just like I was kind of bored, but I kind of jumped in. I liked it. I mean, it's very, very rough at the beginning. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to film anything. I didn't know how to edit, but I liked the experience and I liked seeing new things and I liked everything about, sharing my enthusiasm of Halloween and horror.
Now, the other question could you also do, I think I mentioned it already, but if not, I'll mention it again now. You do a yard haunt or home haunt, whatever. Was that predating the channel or did that kind of fall into place based off of that?
Well, before my channel, before Sheena was born and actually like shortly after she was born, we lived in a condo, like a couple towns over, not too far from where we're living now. But right outside our front door, we had a little space. I had like a mini, like, graveyard that I would set up, but I did it every year.
Okay,
so every year, and we started off doing Halloween parties. That was back, before Sheena was born, we'd have Halloween parties and have friends over and stuff, obviously that.
Okay.
After Sheena was born, we stopped doing that, but I always still decorated for Halloween.
And I think that was one of the neat things I like to the haunt, because at the time you started your channel, then you had been doing this. And by the time I got around to it, you had quite a lot of, animatronics and different things. Like, it was no joke. I
get like maybe 2 or 3 animatronics every year.
And
I don't know what I'm going to do this year because I don't know if Katie wants to bring any more. We don't have the space. And I don't know if Katie wants to bring any more in till I get rid of some. It's hard for me to decide which ones I want to get rid of.
Well, maybe your channel will take off and you'll start getting monetized. You'll start getting that YouTube money. Exactly. Strictly for your Halloween decorations.
If that were to happen, that'd be great. I think I would keep purchasing. If I had a big enough yard, if I had the money, I would probably have something that I don't know if I'd legally be able to have the kind of showcase that I would love to do if I had the money. I'd probably have to buy like some kind of lot or something like that.
I think
can't really do it in a local neighborhood, in a residential neighborhood for a home haunt.
Well, I guess you can't. You've got to be respectful, obviously, of your neighbors, as long as they are respectful of you, I guess. But you do see a lot of people on YouTube where it's like surprisingly how much they can do with what little space, and it's usually like well received by like the neighbors and the people you see on the thing.
I don't know if I love what I'm saying is I wish I had like something where I could do like an actual full on haunted house. And I don't, then it's all about permits and stuff like that. So that's what I'm kind of referring to.
That's true. That's, yeah. They always have to be a downer with that kind of stuff to get the thing. Because, judging by the yard that you have, it would get very involved. But you could kind of do, and I think you did attempt something with didn't you do the one, and then it got real windy, but didn't you have a enclosed kind of thing?
That was awesome. That was actually 2020, and Sheena's school, the town wasn't doing trick or treating, I don't think, that year. So I think what they did was they had a Halloween decoration contest. So what we did, we put up a tent and covered it with, I didn't have like a black tent. So what I did was I took landscape fabric, covered it in landscape fabric, and I had like a little tent that you would walk through, and I had all the animatronics set up, and we actually won that year for that Halloween contest. And we actually hired, Katie used to work for a haunted house that she met some of, like, you know, kept in touch with some of the actors.
Oh, okay.
From the haunted house, and we hired one of the actresses to be like the guide, because we were out trick-or-treating. That's the thing about my yard haunt. I will, before we take Sheena out to go trick-or-treating, I film my yard haunt, because I do, like, October, either the day of Halloween or the day after, I release my video of my nighttime walkthrough of my yard haunt. So I usually film that before we go out trick-or-treating. But I leave my house. So I leave the yard haunt. I leave everything on. Hired that year an actor to take the kids through as we went around, because we were looking at all the other houses.
Okay.
So we had somebody guide the kids through the haunted house, and I had like all these a huge set. I have a video of it from that year of what the setup was like. But that was a good one.
So, and that's probably my favorite part about. I mean, I like all the pieces of your channel, but that's like I love the thought and everything, because it's kind of like I wish that's something that I could do. I don't have a front yard here, and I could kind of like, we have a small porch. I could kind of like put up some plywood and kind of like just do something up to the door, but for the long, like in a situation like
ghostly stuff like that, probably you could hang stuff.
Yeah, so
or maybe have a skeleton hanging out or something.
I like to just live vicariously through other people and yours. It's nice to know personally someone who does it. So that was okay. So you have always been doing, I'm trying to think of anything else before we move into the thing about your YouTube journey, but you're still going strong. You do a series or many different series. You do.
I know I have playlists of 10 videos, probably, if I have that many of each. I have everything on playlists, so you could see, each segment that we do, and it has its own playlist, so you could see them separately. If you happen to say you like our Spirit Halloween store tours, and that's what you like to see, and you don't want to have to flip through everything, I have playlists where you can at least see the most recent 10 videos. So I try to hit 10 Spirit Halloween stores throughout the season.
Well, that's nice.
And then I keep it up. Up until I start the next season, once they open up in August, and then I'll start filming my Spirit Halloween store tours. And like I said, I try to get 10 of them, so I have like a playlist of 10 videos that you could watch until the next year.
That's a great idea. And you do those ones, you do the Find the Haunts. I like those where you just random stuff at any time. You kind of pick out something scary or horror related at random.
Yeah, I like to go to places that. Yeah, I like to go to places that have, like, I'll go like horror movies, like all the different horror movies, like say at a Walmart or Target, and if they have like like collectibles, like horror collectibles, I show all that kind of stuff. And like clothing, you got like t-shirts or something like that, or hats. I like to show that kind of stuff. So that's what I do outside of the Halloween season.
You have a lot of content on there, and like I said, going back to not seeing you for almost 20 years, and then seeing that, it was just good to see, because obviously I'm at that stage now. I wouldn't say that I'm not, I do look at the horror stuff, but that's not with my channel and everything, that's not the podcast even, it's not my primary thing, but it is something that I more often than not come down to. I think a majority of my podcast episodes anyway are dealing with the horror movies and different things like that. And as a matter of fact, there's quite a few videos when I was mentioning the horror pack. When I was getting them, I usually was doing a monthly unboxing of those. So there's plenty of that content on mine. But
yeah, I like watching those videos.
It's
I
good.
like when you were doing the unboxing of the horror packs.
It's good to go back. Even myself,
I go back in and watch them.
But yeah, so that's. You're not.
That's kind of similar. Like one of my segments that I do, I was like thinking about that. I don't do a lot of unboxing, but I do a segment called My Horror Collection, and we show different stuff that I own all over my house. I'll have like little skull decorations, or like my T-shirts or something like that. So I think probably every other week or something like that, we'll put out an episode where we show different things we haven't showed before that we have that's either horror or spooky or creepy or something like that.
Yeah, that's
or strange. That kind of stuff is, it keeps the content going.
It's good, and you need to keep it going, and you keep the season alive all year round, if you will.
Yeah. And so it's not just like I mean, I guess most of the videos I cut down this year on my Find the Haunt videos, because I feel like it was saturating my off season. And I started doing other stuff like, now, and also to keep Halloween incorporated, I started a segment called Versus, and I'll take animatronics, 2 different animatronics, and I'll talk about what, features there are for the 2 of them. And then I don't like to give my opinion on it, because I like to encourage people to comment, just to get a conversation or something going. And I like to see if other people's thoughts on it. But I like to show the different attributes of 2 different animatronics, and people could, go in and say, which one they like more. And or at least that's my hope. I don't get a lot of comments on those videos, but I would like to.
And I guess it all comes down to that you have a lot of good content, like I said, to keep the haunt and the Halloween season going 365. And in interest of time, we're almost coming up on an hour here. Good conversation, everything, but it's a good segue into on Monday, I think officially April 29th is the by calendar day, halfway point until Halloween. So that is the reason why we decided to do this particular episode. I thought it went well and fit well, and it does. So I wanted to ask, I mentioned this before, we were just talking before the show. Is there, for me, when I think of halfway to Halloween, I kind of think of a movie that is great during Halloween season, but it needs to come back out sooner. So what's a movie for you that's like that? That's a multi times a year, but specifically like if you're trying to get in the mood for the halfway to Halloween.
Halloween, Michael Myers.
And I mean, you can't complain.
I gotta watch that every year. I mean, I know a lot of people like stuff like, Hocus Pocus and stuff like that, but Halloween, I mean, it's set in that holiday, and in my opinion, it's one of the best horror movies.
It is.
I love John Carpenter's movies. I really do. But that is just, I think, one of my all-time favorite horror movies. And Halloween season is, the movie's based on Halloween on the day. So, yeah, come Halloween, I cannot not watch it Halloween, but I also will watch it anytime.
Anytime. And, you hit on a good point. I think that's a big part of it, like the capturing the feeling of the season. And I mean, spoiler alert,
They
everybody.
filmed. I don't even think they filmed it during Halloween.
No, it was.
I think they had. Oh no, you know what it was? It was in California.
Yes, that's what I'm going to
right?
say.
And they had to throw out or somewhere where they didn't have fall when they were filming it, so I think they had to like throw leaves around.
And they did a good job, but still making you feel.
But they created that atmosphere, and it was fabricated. I just think that's awesome.
It is, because you can see, I guess, in some scenes like palm trees and stuff. So it's supposed to be set in
palm trees, and then there's fall leaves on the ground. It's autumn, but there's palm trees in the background. I love that.
But it did a good job of setting that scene, and I don't know if maybe even seeing it so many years removed from it. Like, obviously, we have remasters of all these movies that are like million K or whatever that are so good, but like when you originally or first watch that movie for the first time, unless you were around day one, you know, when it came out, when you're watching it 10, 15, 20 years later, just the quality, it just all makes it feel like Halloween. And
that's one of those movies I've seen how many times, and I don't feel like it ever became monotonous to me to like watch it. I'll watch it from beginning to end, and I don't know how many times I've seen it. Like I've seen it hundreds, if what feels like hundreds of times.
Yeah, and it's I mean, it would have to definitely fit.
I watch it every year, so at least every year I've watched it at least one time because I watch it during Halloween season every year.
Yeah, and I do. Do I try and? I think I do try to at least watch that. Maybe not on Halloween, but I at least try to make sure I watch the original.
During the season, yeah.
During the season. But for me...
I don't think there's anything that I, like, watch religiously on Halloween. But, yeah, during that season, I always have to watch
for me,
Halloween.
It depends. If we're talking about in the actual season, depending on, like, we going back to the channel when we start our Halloween season. So like, depending on how I'm feeling that year, like some years I'll try and do like, even if it's starting in like September, like try and watch like one movie a night leading it, like horror movie, going out of my way leading up to Halloween night. But for like the halfway to Halloween point, and I mentioned this to you before we go on, but my go-to is multiple times a year anyway, is Trick or Treat with the 1986 film. And I think that does a good job, kind of, not really, but of capturing the thing. But if I'm going strictly for the feels, another one that I do like to put on is Trick or Treat. It's, you know, the newer one from 2000.
I love that movie. Yeah, I love it.
And specifically for me, the part that feels the most Halloween in that is the not skit. The segment, I guess, if you want to call it that, with the kids on the bus. That whole that whenever I see that like whole thing, and then when they're, you know, later in the quarry and everything, that hits like the Halloween, like feeling.
Well, it's kids in the masks and stuff like that. They're all wearing masks, and it just has that feel. Like when you think about Halloween, you're gonna think about kids in masks, and I think that's what strikes me about it. And is that.
Well, I was gonna say the masks that they use are like the creepy old like time.
Yeah, it's very nostalgic. It just hits you like, I mean, yeah, that's the way that when I was a kid, that's the way that masks, you know, the costumes were. So yeah, that really hits me. It brings me back to that time where I was a kid during Halloween. That's where it takes me. But that's one of the things I like about horror movies. Something about horror movies, it strikes me in some way. There's always something that will make me identify with it. Maybe it's just because I always had that feel. I like to be spooked. So that feeling that I like from horror movies. But every time I see a new horror movie, it always just hits that kind of nerve that brings me back to maybe another horror. I don't know what it is. Every horror movie strikes me in a way that it brings me back to maybe the first time I ever saw a horror movie and felt like that energy from it that I get. But
and I think
yeah,
I think too, just in general for me, because I do like a lot of 80s and 90s stuff, like overall, different pop culture things. A lot of times these movies, as horror movies, can take me to certain like times where I can like almost, it makes me feel like I'm back like a kid, like you said, a kid in those times, getting ready to go out and trick or treat or stuff, like, all the way back there. And even movies, like another one that I like to go through, usually starting at this point now, it's a safe point. And I did a podcast on it, and I recently just found it, but it's the 4th of July. Gosh, I can't think of the name. Why am I losing it? Oh, Uncle Sam. That's it.
Uncle Sam. I remember I watched that episode.
That movie actually, like I watched. I can watch that multiple times throughout the year, but that is obviously the content, it's 4th of July, but that, even take out the horror aspects of it, like the whole small town, like the parade and all the different things, that makes me feel like a kid again. So it takes me into that kind of mindset, I guess, if you will. But that's another one that is good. Starting now, it could be even good, like the halfway point to Halloween. And I only really started acknowledging the halfway point because of YouTubers and different people I follow always pumping it up, and it's like, oh yeah, you're right, and it's going to be here soon. Let's start trying to figure out what the season is going to look like. And again, for somebody like you, it's a lot different, obviously, because you're starting to plan out your haunts and starting to look. You've already done a couple videos, I think, this year of just upcoming Spirit Halloween or Home Depot, I think, unveilings of different.
I think I put out some sneak peeks, some leaks that came out. I did some videos on some leaked animatronics that are coming out this year.
So it's a good starting point, just to kind of start whetting your taste buds, or whetting your appetite, whatever the term I'm looking for is, there to look forward to the season. And what, like,
yard haunt, by the way, 4th of July, my yard haunt videos start. July 4th is when I always release my first sneak peek animatronic that's going to be in my yard haunt.
See,
I do my reveals. I do my leading up to my 10 animatronics that I feature in my yard haunt, and I do a video every couple weeks I release a new animatronic that's going to be featured, and I start July 4th.
That's awesome too, to keep it like fresh, to keep it going, and give you that content to come up. But before we're at 53 minutes here, which is nice, which is good. But I do want to touch on, yes, it's the halfway point, but leading up, we kind of just touched on it. What are some early, like, Halloween memories for you? Like, I know you said you've always been into it and you would get the mask, but can you recall like one Halloween that maybe set the tone for you, like that moving forward, that you...
I can't think of, because to me, like, they were all like individually so great. Nothing stands out. One thing that I could remember is my earliest memory of anything Halloween related. I think when I was 3 or 4, I was the Incredible Hulk for Halloween, and my mom got me like a green shirt and green, like, little pajama pants or something like that I wore, and she painted my hands and my face green, and I hadn't seen myself until I went to school, and I went in the bathroom and I looked in the mirror, and like I was going around, walking around everybody, like trying to scare them, like, like flexing and trying to scare like the other kids. And I went in the bathroom, I saw myself in the mirror, and I got scared and started crying.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I don't have any. Again, like I said, because it wasn't always a primary thing. Back when I was real young, Christmas was my holiday.
Yeah.
Like I not even necessarily just for the presents or everything, because it was always about family. Like, you know, it was always that time when you see people, you know, aunts and uncles you haven't seen, and just the whole lead up, it was similar to with Halloween, the whole getting ready to decorate and getting your house all like Christmassy and cozy. But for me, my like memories, I do have a couple. I remember one year I went as the Joker after the '89 Batman came out. It was a sight to see. I forget. I think I got some kind of jacket at a thrift store or whatever, but I like sprayed my hair green. I looked ridiculous, but I don't even think there was a picture of it anywhere. But I don't remember much, even like significant trick or treat stories. But I do know that I was always, like I said, a scaredy cat. Like I liked it from far. Like it never, it scared me to look at it, but like being immersed, like I never like went to like a haunted house like thing until like the 90s, like where I got up enough nerve. And even like when I did that, like we had they don't do it anymore, but our town, we had these woods behind our house or around our house, a friend's house and everything, which we'd go and like, you know, play like tag and stuff in there, but they had cleared like a section out and like did like a walk through like haunt and everything. I remember like, I probably would say it was like 92, it was like 12 or whatever. And my mom and I went, I was like scared, and it was fine. Cause you know, as you're going through, you see the people, you know, your coaches and stuff. It's like, it wasn't too bad, but I was still always skittish. And even like going, to Wildwood, which I wish I would have been brave enough to go on it more before it burned down, like Castle Dracula. Like, even
I missed out on that, and I never went to Wildwood. That's the thing. I never went there. I've heard about Castle Dracula, and I coveted that.
It's good.
I wish I had that experience.
It's good. On Spotify, they actually have the soundtrack of it probably wouldn't mean much to you, but like this music, they got all like the sound bites that would play throughout the thing and the different.
I would like that during my yard haunt. I wish I had a speaker outside and had like sounds and stuff like that going on. I think that would be cool.
But like even with that, I was like always like, I would go with my friends, and you know, like I said, it's still 12, 13, like be like sticking close to them. It was always, and I still am, even when I go, like I love it, but like even when I'm quick to jump, if you will. Like I remember we went.
I love going through haunted houses. To me, it's like, you know, when Katie was working at the haunted house she worked at, that's the last one that I've been to. Oh, I got a funny anecdote.
Go ahead.
Sheena was conceived on a night that Katie and I went to a haunted house. How's that? For a Halloween family YouTube channel.
Sounds like a good origin story, and also sounds like a way a horror movie would start, to be honest. But yeah, but I do remember those things, going back to the whole like Halloween memories. But the one thing that I'm still trying to get resolved, and I know I'm not making this up, but maybe you can back me up on it, or maybe you're aware, and you don't have to just agree to agree. But I remember it was maybe the late 80s, early 90s. Snickers, Three Musketeers, and Milky Way. I've looked online to see if I can find these. I remember them having like a promo. Excuse me. If you spelled out like Mickey or something, you get a trip to Disney. But I cannot find any wrappers, anything online. Did I just make this up? like kind of like almost like the Monopoly pieces from McDonald's. I remember that would be fun to, and of course, as with like the Monopoly pieces and everything, you would never, one letter was always the rare one. So you get everything else, but you never get the one you needed. But
I mean, if you're telling me you have that memory, I trust you. You have that like nostalgic mind that holds on to memories like that. I don't recall that, but that's. I don't doubt that it was something that actually happened.
I'll have to look again and see if I can find it, because I've just been trying to like. I follow people who have years old food. I was just watching a YouTube video of somebody who was eating Power Ranger food from the 90s. The stuff's out there. I don't know why I can't. Excuse me, why I can't find this, but that's like my core memory. That's bugs me because I want to know. I just like to see the wrappers and see. I don't think it was always it was always something, but like for a couple Halloweens, it was the same type of deal. You'd have to spell out something with the wrappers, and it was through all the whatever company. I think the Mars company owns those three brands, but it was always the Snickers, Milky Ways, and Three Musketeers. You could get the letters.
For that, but
Halloween.
Maybe somebody listening might reach out and recall it or something.
That's what I'm hoping. But we are at the hour mark now, so we're gonna bring this episode to a close. I hope we've given people enough content, enough information, or enough planted enough seeds to get this halfway. Now that we are going to be halfway to Halloween, just to start thinking about the fall. And again, like I said, I don't want to discount the summer. I'm looking forward to that too, but there is always a part of me that just likes that. When it starts, I used to not like this, actually. As a matter of fact, I don't want them to change. For the longest time, I didn't want daylight saving time. I was like, I wish it just stayed light longer. But I cannot, at least being on the East Coast, I know there's other places where it's not a thing, not as a thing, but I cannot picture the fall Halloween season, Thanksgiving, Christmas, with it not getting dark at like 5 o'clock. I don't think it would have the same effect if it would, but that's, like I said, I don't want to rush through, but hopefully people start getting, ready, and hopefully this gets them in the mood and gets them going for Halloween. So before we get out of here, do you have anything you want to plug? I mean, you want to throw out your channel, any other places you can be found?
Besides, I got an Instagram channel, the Hauntdermotts, and also Hauntdermotts on YouTube, and I guess Facebook. My personal Facebook page is actually Hauntdermotts posts.
That's
everything that comes up on Facebook is my Instagram posts.
And that's fine too. I will put all those links in the show notes and the description of this video, because there will be a video piece to this. And it's going to do it for this halfway to Halloween long episode. This is the longest episode of the Mind of Smoothie podcast. So stay tuned for more, not always going to be long ones, but more episodes featuring guests, featuring more people involved, just so you're not hearing my dumb voice all the time. But that's going to do it for this halfway to Halloween episode. McDermott, appreciate you being here. Appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate our friendship. So that's going to do it. I want y'all to have a great rest of your day. Take care. God bless and stay smooth. And we will see you on the next video, because this is a video.